for the English Channel and Lake Champlain and Lake Powell. But yeah, I try to swim 6 days. Some pool, some open water. When I'm in the pool, I try to do high intensity, so it's hard. And when I'm in the lake, it's just long and strong for however long I'm swimming.
What's your program in what kind of program do you do when you do a high intensive training? What are your interval training?
Well, yeah. So in the U.S., all of our pools are yards. So it's going to seem like I'm really fast because it's shorter than 25 meters. So I have a 25-yard pool, but I can hold an interval about 115, which is about 125 in short course meters and 25 meters per 100. So 125 per 100 meters. And that's my like hard interval. So I can go a little bit faster. Sometimes I can do 120. Other times it's 130. But yeah, I do like a long warm-up and a warm-up set, and then I try and do like a big high-intensity set where my heart rate is up over like 150, and then I bring it back down. That answer your question? Okay. No, you're good. What other questions? There has to be more.
The lake swims were harder than the 4 English Channel swims, or the 4 English?
People ask that all the time. What's the hardest swim? There's a big difference between freshwater and saltwater. Freshwater, it feels heavier. In saltwater, your legs float, and so there's a lot less pressure on your shoulders. But you chafe more, and then there's salt mouth from the salt water. So there's some things that make freshwater easier, and some things that make it harder, and some things that make saltwater easier and harder. But definitely the hardest swim was the Lake Champlain swim, because it was just 67 hours of swimming. And it's hard to stay awake that long. 54 hours in the English Channel was like easy. I went home, I took a nap. We were home at like 9 in the morning, and I got up at 2, and then I was okay. So not as hard. With Lake Champlain, that was 67 hours. That was a little bit rougher to stay awake that long. And I was swimming like 1 kilometer an hour at the end of Lake Champlain, like really slow. My stroke rate is normally about 65 strokes, and by the end of Lake Champlain, I was at like 50. So I wasn't moving very fast at the end. And at the end of the English Channel, I was still, it's like 65, I was still going hard.
Wow. So this means that you can do the 5th crossing?
So he asked, does that mean you can do the 5th crossing? My English Channel boat captain, he has told me since the swim that his biggest regret is that he didn't make me turn around and go back. Because he said, he saw me when I came out, and he said, you could do it. So he made a joke before we went out. He said, if you get to the end of 4 and you think you feel good and you want to go back, we'll make a deal over the boat railing to take you back. And so I said I was done. But he says he saw me at the end and how good I was still swimming, and he said, I knew what the tides were doing. We could have got you back to France. We should have.
But you are out of M&Ms, I guess.
Yeah, I was out of M&Ms.
Yeah.
Yes, someone needed to refresh the M&M stash if I was going to do number 5. What else? What did I eat? So my main thing that I eat is Carbo Pro. It's just carbohydrates. It's a powder mix, and I put it in a bottle with electrolytes. So it's mostly just carbs and a little bit of protein. With electrolytes. But when you go for like 24 hours, sometimes you need to eat solid things. So I like to eat baby food, like in a pouch, just squeeze it in, or oatmeal, and sometimes risotto. That's better in fresh water because it's salty. So risotto is for the lake swims only, but oatmeal is really delicious. And M&Ms. Really love M&Ms. They're delicious. particularly the peanut ones because they're crunchy. Sorry. I ate a lot of M&Ms. Chocolate, I think, is good for your mouth, too, in salt water. It makes it feel better. No potato chips or French fries. Definitely don't want those. It's bad. The salt water on your tongue, I don't know, 3 days in the salt water is hard. At the end, I could like barely swallow because my throat was so swollen and my tongue was so swollen. When I went to sleep afterwards, I actually went to sleep sitting up because I was worried that I would like choke because I was drooling. Even when I was awake, I was drooling because I couldn't swallow my spit. It's really glamorous.
Wow.
Did you never get any medical problems like skin sort of problems? Like that?
No, I've never had any like medical issues after it. We were after my Lake Champlain swim. That was probably the closest I came to needing some help. We had my cousin who is a paramedic, so he was with us. So he was like monitoring like my blood pressure and my heart rate, and he said I was fine. But I passed out like in the bathtub after the swim. And my husband had to like pull me out of the bathtub and put me on the bed. But my heart rate and blood pressure came right back, so we decided not to go to the hospital. But otherwise, I've never had any skin issues or anything like that. I've been lucky.
How do you protect your skin?
And the question was, how do I protect my skin? If you've seen pictures of me swimming, I use, the product's name is Decidin, but it's diaper rash cream for babies because it has zinc in it. And so I put that on my face and on my back and my arms so that I don't get sunburned. And that does a really good job of not letting me get burned. And then I use lanolin, just wear my like swimsuit straps in my armpits so that I don't chafe. And I didn't put, if you look at pictures of the English Channel, I didn't put anything else on as far as Decidin goes. So that's, if you saw how much was still left. It stays on really, really good for 3 days. At the end of every length of the English Channel, I added more lanolin. So they would give me like just a can, and I would just goop it on everywhere. So I did that 3 other times. But the Decidin I didn't add anything to, because it never goes away, ever. Yes. There's no solution for jellyfish. You just have to tough it out. You know, I was lucky. I only hit one in the English Channel, and it hit me right on my face. Yeah, right at the start of the second lap. So it was still pretty early. And by the time I was done, I didn't feel it anymore. But yeah, no, they're okay. Some jellyfish are worse than others, but the ones in the English Channel aren't super mean. But yeah, you just have to get stung. What else?
What did you learn? So I think there is many stuff, not stuff, but writing about that the swimming is good for the mind, the breathing is oxygen for the mind. So do you think that your level after stress and power longer used in this way need to do something? So do you think your mind is more open? Do you think something in this way?
That's a good question. See, this better without the microphone. I don't know if like there's clarity when I'm swimming so much, because when I'm swimming, I'm usually not thinking about anything, right? I'm just thinking about swimming. I take my feeds every 30 minutes, and so I'm only thinking about 30 minutes at a time. I think the learning really comes in the training, because that's where it's really hard, is the day in and day out, getting into the routine, being dedicated, sacrificing your personal time and time with friends and your family. And so I think that's where you have the time to think and to really like reflect on the stupid things that you're doing. But I think in all of the years that I've been swimming, there is value in pushing yourself beyond what you think that you can do. And I think that's where you learn the most about yourself. You know, it doesn't matter if you're training for an English Channel 4-way or a 1 kilometer swim. There's value in getting up every morning and having a goal and saying, today I'm going to do my best, whatever your best is, and then doing it, and then doing it again tomorrow, and doing it again the day after that. And I think that's where you get strong, and you learn about yourself, and you learn about your weaknesses, and you learn how to overcome your weaknesses, is just repeating that day in and day out. And then at the end of that, you've got your goal. You know, say you want to swim a 10K, and you've put in months and months of work, and you've had your doubts, you've had your bad days, you've wanted to quit, and then you go and do your race, and you have your bad moments and you want to quit, but you're prepared to push through. And that happens, I think, in life too. You know, I think most of you probably know I had cancer, and I had that experience of day in and day out pushing through something hard and terrible just to get to the end of it. And there is victory and satisfaction at the end of a hard journey, whether it's a cancer battle or a long swim. There's a lot of parallels there. And I just think you have, when you're training, you're learning, and then something like cancer happens to you, you already have that strong mind to push through even really more terrible things. And to see the benefit of, okay, today it's terrible, I have to go to chemo, but I'm going to get up, I'm going to take it 30 minutes at a time like I do at a swim, and at the end of the day I can go to bed and it'll be all right. So that's my spiel about what I learned. What else? And I think we have some guests in the back.
The Irish have arrived.
The Irish. I thought there was like 20 of you coming. Okay.
Don't ask them where they are. They're out there somewhere in Austria.
What other questions can I answer?
At the end of the third crossing, I know you get out of the water and they allow you like 5-10 minutes probably. Did you go up on your feet, or did you stay somehow on the horizontal?
So he's asking if at the end of the 4-way, did I ever manage to...
At the end of the third, before going to the fourth.
At the end of the third, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rules when you're swimming multiple laps of the English Channel is that you have to get to the other side and clear the water, and then you have 10 minutes, but you have to stay in the water. So you have to get all the way out, and then you have to keep at least your feet in the water. And you can do whatever you want in those 10 minutes, but after 10 minutes you have to start swimming. It was really unfortunate. On every single turn that I had, there was no beach. So if there's no beach, you just have to touch a rock that is as far as you can go. And you don't necessarily have to climb all the way out because the rocks there are really sharp. So you just basically touch the rock. So on the first lap we got there, we landed right on the cap, which is where you really want to land for the English Channel because it's the shortest distance. But the currents are really strong through there because it sticks out. And so you're aiming like way south and hoping that the currents line up and you can land right on the cap. And so lap number 1, I literally like grabbed a rock and I could feel the current like pushing me. So I'm like hanging on to the rock and trying to put more lanolin on and trying to eat some oatmeal and some rice, and you know, it was just hectic. And you have to start swimming in 10 minutes. And so 10 minutes goes really fast when you're trying to eat something and you're treading water and you're trying to put lanolin on. So that was the first turn. And then the second turn, we were headed right back to Samphire Hoe, which is where I started, and I could see it. And I thought we were going to land on the beach in England. And so I had it in my mind that I was going to be able to get out and like stretch my back. But there was other boats about to go out, And so they just made me touch the seawall. So I just touched the seawall, and I'm throwing up and trying to eat and put lanolin on, and it's midnight, and it was really miserable, and I was really whining about not having a beach to sit on. I think I told everyone very loudly that I was devastated that I didn't have a beach to sit on. And so we were joking the whole way back on lap number 3 that Eddie, my boat captain, would find me a beach to land on. And I kept, was being kind of sassy back and saying, "You won't find me a beach. I don't believe you." And he was like pointing, like when we get to France, he's like, "No, look, there's a beach. Can you see it?" And I could see the beach. And so I was really excited that I was going to get to sit on the beach. But then the tide changed, and we landed right back on the same rocks. And so, but they found a different rock for me, and it was kind of like a chair. And so there's like this little tiny rock, and my feet are in the waves, and it's like crashing up against me, and everyone's like, "We found you a beach. We found you a beach." And it wasn't really a beach. It was still rocks. So no beach for me until I crawled out at the very, very end. So really, it was kind of rough from that perspective, because I did, in my mind, I thought that at some point I would get a beach and be able to stand and like stretch, and I didn't get that at all.
And how did you manage to get over this disappointment?
Well, I cried for a very long time. But when you're swimming for 54 hours, there's nothing else you can do other than cry about it. So, yeah, it was just, that's how it happened. I tried to look at the positive of it, especially at the second turn when I was in England, and I knew we were so close to the beach. But the positive part of it was I knew we had timed the tides perfectly, because all the other boats were going out again. So I knew we were making the turn at the exact right time that we could potentially land back on the cap for the third time, because we didn't know that that would be possible with the timing of the tides. So I didn't get the beach, but it was good because there was other people in the way. That's what we would have had to have waited my turn to get into the beach with all the other swimmers. So we didn't want to have to just tread water and wait to go in. So it was good that I didn't get a beach. It meant that everything was going perfectly, but I was really upset.